Is Real Housewives of New Jersey about to get completely rebooted? Andy Cohen addressed it this morning on Radio Andy, and it's gotten a lot of people fired up, especially as we have the explosive reunion of Jersey coming next week. We're a week away. We're going to recap this week's Jersey. We're going to talk about this new dating show with Housewives that's coming to Peacock. Let's dive in. You're listening to No Filter with Zack Pack, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in, welcome on in, welcome on in. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Hope you guys had a lot of fun over the weekend. Got Liddy City, maybe went on some hot dates, maybe got to chill by the pool. Whatever your summer is looking like, I hope you have been loving it. Loving it. Okay, we have a lot that we'll dive into today. Also, a bit of some news that just came in. This was just posted by Bravo and Cocktails about the Jersey, I guess a Jersey reboot maybe coming soon. We'll dive into that in just a sec. But let's start with this new dating show that's coming to Peacock. It's called Love Hotel, and it's a new show. It was announced over the weekend. Still waiting on the Salt Lake City trailer. When is the Salt Lake City trailer coming? Anyway, we don't have any Salt Lake City stars on this dating show, but it's a new dating show that will star Countess Luann from Real Housewives of New York, Shannon Beador, Ashley Darby, and Gizelle Bryant. So 4 eligible Bravo bachelorettes, and they're going to be filming in Cabo this September. It'll air on Peacock in 2025, and it brings together some eligible bachelors that will vie for the hearts of these single Bravo lebs. Are we excited about this? It seems kind of fun, right? It seems like a good a fun concept. Obviously, it looks like Girls Trip is getting scrapped at this point. We had season 1, which is in the Turks and Caicos, which was great. We had Kyle Richards, Cynthia Bailey, Kenya Moore, Ramona Singer, Luann. Who else do we have? Teresa and Melissa. Season 1 was good. Season 1 was fun. Then we had season 2, the Ex-Wives Club. That was Tamara, Vicky, Brandy, Phaedra, Eva, Dorinda. Who else do we have on that one? Jill Zarin. And then we had season 3, which was Thailand, which was a little bit of meh. That was Marisol and Alexia. We had Heather, Whitney, Bad Weather, Giselle, Portia, Leah McSweeney. Then we had season 4 that was not aired. That was the Morocco and the Marrakesh of it all with Brandy Glanville and Caroline Manzo, the lost season that we will probably never see in the future. And then we have the RHONJ Legacy Edition. We'll see what happens with Ultimate Girls Trip, but it seems like they're trying to bring in more of these mashup shows. It doesn't look like Winter House is coming back. I haven't heard anything about Winter House. I feel like they would have filmed it by now because it normally would air later in the fall. So I feel like they would have filmed it like in the springtime and it hasn't gone into production. Summer House is in production. So it looks like maybe we're not getting another season of Winter House. I don't know. But I would love to see Ultimate Girls Trip come back. I think it's fun. But I also think this mashup show is kind of interesting as well. I mean, do I really want to see Gizelle Bryant? I feel like Giselle's kind of a stick in the mud. No. Ashley's kind of fun. I don't know. Shannon's also kind of a stick in the mud unless she's drinking. And, then she just is drunk. But Luann's a good time and Ashley's a good time. So Lou and Ashley I'm excited about. Shannon and Gizelle, I feel like they're kind of boring, I don't know. Winter House was met. Yeah, I didn't watch this I don't think I've ever watched a full season of Winter House, to be honest. Like, I'll dip in and I'll kind of watch it, but like for the most part, it's not that interesting to me. Summer House is having its moment, especially now that Vanderpump's kind of taken a step back. Like Vanderpump hit its peak, and I always kind of predicted that Vanderpump would hit its peak with Scandal. I was like, there's no way they can ever top this. Notice how no Sonia in the dating show. It's funny because I feel like when the announcement first came out, I thought Sonia was going to be a part of it, but she's not. Who was the one that was it Jeff Lewis? Somebody outed Sonia and said that she was a complete disaster when they did the Watch What Happens Live 15-year anniversary. And then even Countess Luann came out and she's just like, listen, Sonia. Sonia's a lot. If you don't really know Sonia, you don't know how to navigate Sonia. I've heard Sonia is a disaster. I heard she's a nightmare to work with. I remember even at one point when I was doing live shows and we were considering booking Sonia for one of the live shows as a special guest. And her rep was even like, I wouldn't recommend booking Sonia. Like, it's if you're up for it, we're happy to put her forward, but it's a lot and it's not an easy talent to manage when they're doing events and stuff. So Sonia's just, I feel like she's a hot mess and has always been a hot mess, and it is what it is. But I'm looking forward to this show. Like I said, filming this September. They're going to Cabo, Love Hotel, coming to Peacock 2025. Hopefully they don't wait too long, because I don't like when they wait too long to give us these shows, because they're actually really fun. After her Crappy Lake shenanigans, she is a major. What were her Crappy Lake? I didn't watch Crappy Lake either. What were her Crappy Lake shenanigans? I heard Sonia is always drunk. I've heard the same thing. I've never met Sonia in person, though. I've heard she's gorgeous and stunning in person, and she looks very young and has beautiful skin. But I've never met her in person. I don't think I've ever met Luann. I've never met her in person either. Luann. I heard Sonya gets super inappropriate at everything. Yeah, and especially after the Brandy Glanville of it all, they're not gonna the network's not gonna put up with that. They're not gonna put themselves in a situation where they could potentially find themselves in a legal mess again. But we'll see. We shall see. What else? What else? What else? There's the new Peacock show. Oh, something about her. Oof, I saw the video proof of her. Yeah, I believe it. Something about her, and then we'll get into the Jersey of it all. We'll recap this week's episode of Jersey and get into the Jersey reboot tea in just a bit. So, something about her under fire yet again. Curious what you guys are gonna think about this. So let's see. Oh my God, sorry, I just saw a screenshot that I got of one of my friends. Their ex is now dating somebody, and I was like, oh, that kind of makes me a little. I don't know how I feel about that. Sorry, I just pulled it up as I was opening my phone again. The tape. Okay, so with the something about her. So there was this new job listing that was posted. They're looking for a prep team member at new sandwich shop in WeHo. Something about her, West Hollywood, California, 90069. Joe's favorite number. So it's they have paid training, and they'll give you an employee discount if you work for something about her. It is a part-time job. You'll work 15 to 30 hours per week max, Monday through Friday, which is interesting because they're not open on Mondays and Tuesdays. They're only open Wednesday through Sunday, unless that has changed. Let's verify that right now. Something about her. Yep, they're only open 10 to 4 Wednesday through Sunday. Well, and they've even started to announce some of their team members on their Instagram. Meet Michaela, meet Gemma, meet Lucy, meet Josh. Now they have a man working at something about her. What? They have Kelsey. Meet the new smiles behind your sandwiches. We wanted to take a moment to recognize our rock star staff and all their hard work and dedication these last few weeks. This place truly could not run without them, and we're so grateful. So show them some love and get ready for part 2. And then we have part 2. We have Kate, Dulu Dulce. It looks like Dulu though, right? She Dululu. Dulululu. That's Dulce. We have Maddie. Maddie doesn't look very friendly. We have Adelaide. Adelaide, like Gatorade, but Adelaide. Okay. Vic. Oh, Vic looks real happy to work there. Vic is like living his best. He's like, this is the highlight of my life. Oh, and that's it. Vic's the last one. So they have 2 males working at something about her. How dare they? They are not pro women. Just kidding. Was Anne already fired from something about her? I don't know. Was Anne ever really working there, though? That's the real question. Was she ever a real employee? Also, who hired all these people? Ariana's been in Fiji. Did Terry Maloney hire these people? They didn't put Terry Maloney in the Polaroid. They didn't put her in there. Interesting. Maybe Anne went to work for Chef Penny. Y'all are shady. Um, yeah. I mean, that's a very valid question. I don't know what happened to Anne. Anne was there when the Watch What Crappens boys were there 2 weeks ago. Well, Anne and Terry seem to have been on the Anne and Terry are like, "We're tired of working. Hire some new people." But anyway, let's get back to this job listing because people are very fired up about it. So they're looking for a prep team member. It is part-time, and the starting rate is $21 an hour. Let's see, what is minimum wage in California? What is minimum wage? Oh, look at there it is. What is minimum wage in California? As of January 1st, 2024, the minimum wage is $16 per hour. Okay. So in California, minimum wage, 16 an hour. And they're paying 21. So it's already pretty well above 21, or sorry, above minimum wage. But people were dragging them on Reddit saying that the pay seems low unless they also get tips. Part-time hours so that they don't have to offer benefits. 21 hours is not enough for how busy it is there. Nobody can live or survive off of $21 an hour in Los Angeles. I think employers should pay their workers living wage slash fair working a living wage slash fair wage. I think employers should pay their workers a living wage slash fair wage. They do this to the little people, it's unethical. Ariana and Katie are treating their workers like a commodity to be drained of value. Wow, that's a lot of feedback. I don't know if I could. The Idaho minimum wage is $7.50. Jesus Christ, that's so yeah. It's only $7 in North Carolina. Well, I mean, shit, $7.50. Then $16 an hour is pretty high. Well, I know it varies per state, but I hope I don't sound well, maybe I will sound a little ignorant for saying this, but $21 an hour doesn't seem like that bad. It seems pretty fair. I work in staffing, $20 an hour is barely livable in Iowa. In California, $21 is very low. Okay, well, I guess here's the bigger question. Is an employer responsible for making sure you can pay your bills? Um, I tend to I mean, I don't know. I mean, I work full time, but I also, am self-employed. I don't have a regular 9 to 5. I've built, this career for myself that isn't dependent on a 9 to 5. However, I mean, I've also grown up in Los Angeles, so I've kind of seen the working fields here in LA. My jobs in the past, I have worked I think my very first job, I was a camp counselor, and I think it was 11.50 an hour, and then after that, my first job was $12 an hour, and then most of my 20s, I worked in the nonprofit world. Um, I think the highest I got was, like, 13 or $14 an hour before I became salaried. And then, I mean, even then, I worked in the nonprofit world. I found a way to make it work. I was also very blessed to have my family here in Los Angeles, and I was able to live with my grandparents. For I was able to live with family for quite some time, especially as I was working part time and in school. But I don't know if it's like I don't think that it's probably not gonna come off well, but I don't think it's an employer's job to make sure you can pay your bills. Like, an employer the business has to make sure there's sustainability for the business, right? I guess I've just always living in Los Angeles and growing up in Los Angeles, I've always known people to never be able to just pay their bills with one job, if that makes sense. Like, just with the way our economy is and with the way inflation is, like, in order for a business to be sustainable, they have to make sure that they can, I don't think they're trying to gyp anybody. I don't think that, they're trying to not pay people what they're worth, but at the same time, like how much, like what do you want to be paid $30 an hour to run the register. It's something about her. It's a small women-owned independent business. Remember, people are like, don't talk trash about an independent-owned, women-owned business. They're struggling. They're just starting off. And now it's like, no, pay all 15 of your employees $30 an hour. How sustainable is that for the business? I think the business's mindset is trying to provide a sustainable business. That way they can stay in business. But I also understand it from the employee side of like, well, you have to make a living. But that's why I know most people in Los Angeles don't just work one job. They're working a few different jobs, right? They have a part-time job, they have a bartending job, they're servers, they're actors, like they've got multiple sources of income. And that's the only way you can really live in a city like Los Angeles. And here's the thing, if it's too expensive, then you can go live somewhere else. I don't know. I'm conflicted. I don't think that $21 an hour is, I mean, but for part-time, but also if you're taking on a part-time job, then you don't expect that to be your main source of income, right? Like if you agree to take on a job that's part-time, then you're not expecting that to be your sole income to provide your living wage, right? Like if it's part-time, then you're not working full-time. And again, a lot of people I said here, like they're also bartenders, servers, Uber drivers, like they're trying to, hustle to make as much money as they absolutely can. I don't know. Um yes, you're correct, Zach. Businesses pay an average rate compared to similar job types in the area. Yeah. If they're slicing meat, etc., that is a higher pay rate at deli counters. I don't know what industry standard is to work at a deli or to work at a sandwich shop. Just want to preface with that as well. I don't know what industry standard is. Um, if you want the job, you'll apply. You have the right to pass over the job if that isn't enough. The entitlement is a standard. Okay, Kirsten, I'm glad you said it because I kind of feel the same way. I'm like, I don't think you should go to a job and expect like if you need a job. Listen, I came from the hustler mentality, right? Where my grandmothers, they were made sure that there was food on the table. They had to work very hard. My mom, the women in my family were all very hard workers and they made sure to make ends meet. There was never an expectation of benefits or PTO or mental health days. Not that those things aren't important, but it was just like you do what you got to do to make a living. And that's kind of how I still am today. Maybe that's a flawed mindset that I was raised with. And I know a lot of people want to get away from hustler mentality and hustler work ethic. I have no problem with that. I know it's not sustainable forever, but I think if I work really hard now, I can build something, to be able to maybe retire down the line. I don't think I'll ever retire. I'm just somebody that enjoys working. But I don't think that it's an employer's job to have to make sure your bills are paid, to have to make sure that, they go above and beyond to take care of you. I think as a grown adult, it's your responsibility to take care of you. And if a company, this is like when Uber, there was there was I forgot what prop it was, but it was a couple years ago, and people were saying that Uber should pay their drivers benefits. And I was actually not in agreement with that because I was like, listen, it's a job that you take on at your own leisure. Like, most people are doing it from the convenience and comfort of their own cars. And most people are wearing PJs while they're driving for Uber. If you want a job with benefits, there are jobs out there that you can work, but most people that work for Uber choose not to, or it's a side hustle or whatever the case may be. I don't think it's a company's responsibility to make sure you have an incredible lifestyle. I think when companies do that, and there was a time where, companies very much took care of their employees, big companies like I know, my grandmother used to work for AT&T and T, and she was very well taken care of there, but I feel like that, model of like, where a company is going to take care of you. Like that just doesn't exist in this economy anymore. And I don't know. I don't know. I also know that I cannot be the most relatable because I don't have that standard hourly rate that other people work. I understand that the career that I've chosen and you know, where I'm at is very different and in some cases can be considered maybe more privileged. That's high for a part-time job, higher than a store. Something about her can't resolve all of California's wage issues. Yeah, I agree with that. I actually am team Katie and Ariana. I'm team something about her. I think $21 is a fair standard rate for a part-time job where you're working at a sandwich shop. I think that that's fair. I don't think there should be an expectation of benefits if it's part-time. I don't think that you should be paid $30 an hour for a part-time job. But if I were working there, I might charge 1,000 an hour. I mean, listen. Well, Anne didn't make it, Joe, so you can replace her. Anybody working at Something About Her is probably an actor, hopeful, so getting $21 an hour for your part-time job while you're breaking into the industry seems entirely reasonable. I agree. It's part-time. Stacey said it's only a part-time job, so that shouldn't pay your full-time life. I agree. Kirsten says, I demand $50 an hour or your business is trash. Yeah, I mean, that seems to be some of the reaction from people. Um, the food is not even prepared there. It's outsourced. Well, I have heard that too, Marianne. I think we've discussed that on the show that the food for the most part is outsourced. Yeah, all of the baked goods are outsourced. I believe the sandwiches are outsourced as well. I don't know how much prep actually happens in the kitchen there. People need to see the pay ahead of time. So if it's doable, so if it's not doable, then they shouldn't apply. I agree. It's funny that the loudmouths on Reddit are the only ones that are complaining, yet they're not the ones that are actually applying for the job. Go get a job at UPS. You'll work hard, make good money, and have benefits. Listen, there are jobs out there. It's not a company's job to care about you. You have to care about yourself and do what you need to do. I think it's a transaction, right? And I think that's the mentality that I don't necessarily operate. That's a philosophy I don't operate my life by. I never expect a company to need to do anything for me. It's so funny because I was having this conversation with somebody about influencer marketing and how, like, from 2017 to 2019, then we got into 2020 and influencer marketing really started to tank. And it's because a lot of companies were investing a lot in influencers and making a lot of money. But then after a while, it started to kind of crumble. And I was having a conversation with them. I was like, well, on the content creation side of things, I understand. I had a lot of friends that were influencers and companies were throwing money at them. But these people didn't really look at it as what benefit can I bring to the company and what benefit can I bring to my community. A lot of them were these pretty Instagram models and they were like, buy this coconut water. And, or they would just post a pretty picture of a girl on a yacht with the coconut water in her hand. And it was like, buy these vitamins, buy this water, whatever. But I'm like, what benefit does that pretty picture provide to your community and your audience? You have to think of, if I'm ever going to be putting out a product or promoting it in some way, I want people to know that this is of benefit to them. Number one. And number two, what benefit are you providing to the company that's paying you? Because at the end of the day, all they have a duty to is to pay you money for working for them. And they don't owe you anything more than that. Anything else, a benefit is not something that is a standard. A benefit is a benefit. It's an add-on. It's an addition. It's a plus. It's a perk. It's not necessarily guaranteed in my mind, right? Lots of companies only provide benefits to full-time employees. Yeah. You know, Lori says, I was fortunate enough to work at a job that was super rewarding. Yeah, as was I. I wasn't paid very well when I was working in the nonprofit world, but it was work that I loved. It was company that I cared about. It was a mission that was important to me. I haven't seen the full episode. Um, yeah. So it has to be mutually beneficial for both parties, just like Joe and Something About Him job. Yeah, Joe. Thank you, Joe. So yeah, I I think that that's a fair. I think the heat that Something About Her is getting is unwarranted and unfair. Um, See, that shows that I don't always just hate and shit on Something About Her and Ariana and Katie. My husband works in flood mold asbestos restoration, makes $45 an hour. That's hard work. That is making sandwiches in a cashier. Yeah, this is yeah. Yeah, listen, and I think those risks should be worked in. Like the risk that you put when you're working certain jobs, that should absolutely be factored into your hourly rate. Making sandwiches or a cashier. Yeah, I think $21 an hour is standard, and I where's my gavel? That's my final judgment. Okay, let's talk Jersey. Joyzy. Okay, so we had a new episode of Jersey. Next week is the big finale. There's apparently a big shocking twist that comes out. This episode, we saw the big bombshell that Teresa dropped. But before we recap that episode, Andy Cohen on his radio show this morning, I guess, was talking about Real Housewives of New Jersey. And this was posted by Bravo and Cocktails this morning, Monday morning. Somebody sent in a DM, they screenshotted it and posted it. This by Bravo and Cocktails. It says, listening to Andy Cohen live right now, and Andy just said that we are rebooting Real Housewives of New Jersey. There will be all new faces. I don't think he has said it like that previously. He said to a caller live. So it looks like Andy Cohen is confirming that they are going to be rebooting the show. Another person said, I was at the filming of Watch What Happens. They were commenting. I was at the filming of Watch What Happens Live with Melissa Gorga, and Andy said RIP to Real Housewives of New Jersey. General consensus seemed to be felt around there. It was done. And then Kelly Cat also commented, and Kelly said, that's not what Andy said. Andy said there will be big changes and the show will be rebooted. He said they're going to do something different. He said, maybe just all fresh faces. We'll see. I don't know. It kind of sounds like there is a reboot of Jersey coming. It seems like they're going to do what they did to New York, but I feel like they kind of killed New York when they did that. And it sounds like this new season of RHONJ is not going to be that good, um, from what I've heard. I don't know. All new faces, so a complete reboot, not just existing cast getting full-on facial constructive surgeries. I mean, listen, all new faces could mean there are some fresh faces and there are some facelifts in the process, because then technically there would be all fresh faces. I hope the reboot is better than the New York reboot. Yeah, it is kind of a reboot. Lori says, okay, guys, I'm going to audition for Real Housewives of New Jersey. I'm boring, but do go to Rails. Okay, Lori. What's the tea from Rails? Is it Danielle Staub getting railed in the bathroom at Rails? Let's see what other people have commented um, about this breaking news. I mean, it does sound like Jersey is absolutely going to be getting rebooted. Rebooting could mean including a couple current people. Didn't he say they were rebooting Atlanta, and look how that turned out. I don't know if they said that they were rebooting Atlanta. I don't know. Did they say they were rebooting Atlanta? I think they said that they were like giving it a refresh. I think the report said that there was rebooting, but I don't think Andy or the network ever confirmed that there was a reboot. I guess I'll be listening to Andy's show after Zack. I guess so. Gotta give it to Marge. She's genius. It's mediocre but beautiful. The outdoor space is awesome. Oh, Rails? Yeah. It's mediocre but beautiful. It looks like a really pretty place. I think it's Jackie, not Marge, who was the one in touch with Louis. Oh. Okay, well, let's get into this week's episode of Jersey. But it does look like there is a reboot coming to Real Housewives of New Jersey. Curious what your thoughts are about that. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment. I believe you can now leave comments on Spotify. So if you're watching this on Spotify as well, you can drop a comment below. Maybe we'll start to do some shout outs from Spotify. If you can't comment, you may have to re-download the app. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. Your thoughts. Their Jersey is toxic AF. A reboot needs to happen. I think it just kind of went off the rails. But psh. So what did we get this episode? We got Teresa's big bombshell, but we also got the husband's nights. The husband nights were terrible. Okay, I'm just gonna say that. I don't think we need this many husband scenes. I don't need to see, John Fuda having an anaphylactic shock. Okay, and him needing an EpiPen. That was so dramatic and kind of a waste of airtime. Like we could have cut the episodes down, right? I don't know. It was kind of lame. The Fuda of it all. And then the Louis scene was so cringe, you guys, when he's just like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna tape a message to our wives because they're going away on this trip, and we're gonna send them some love notes. And so they're filming these weird ass fucking videos of the husbands like sending these endearing, like, I don't know, it was just kind of cringy, and weird, and you can tell for Polly and for, Bill that it wasn't something that they were comfortable doing or something that they were used to doing, and Louis, when he's talking into the camera, there's something about the way he presents himself that just feels slimy. I don't know if anybody else agrees, but there's just something about it that just kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies, right? I'm just like, "Ooh, I don't like this at all." So that was weird. We could have done without the husband scenes. But then we get to the big climax, right? Or I guess right before Teresa's big reveal, we have Jen Fessler who goes to visit Margaret, and she tells Margaret that Teresa has invited all of the ladies over um, to reveal some information about Margaret. And all the ladies are invited except the Marge. And Margaret's upset and she's kind of pissed about it. And Jen's like, "Listen, I want to hear her out. I want to hear what she has to say." And then Margaret makes a very valid point about like, why would any of my friends go to a bashing? You're going to a dinner where I'm going to be bashed. And she's like, "Well, it's not dinner. I don't think there's food." And then Margaret's like, "There's not even food. Then what's the point?" Which I thought was funny. And then she starts calling everybody. I did think it was a little petty of Margaret to start calling everyone and be like, "You're going to go to this thing." But I also get Margaret being pissed and calling them out. Because listen, if any of us were in that position, let's say our friends were invited by somebody that doesn't like us, that said, "Hey, come to this lunch, dinner, brunch, breakfast, whatever. Come to this meeting where I have some information about you that's going to be revealed that's nasty or not good or whatever, information that's just bad information about you that's made to make you look bad. Whatever the information is, it's intended to make you look bad." Wouldn't you also be pissed at your friends if they decided to engage in that sort of, situation? And I feel like the only friends that would actually attend that are some that may actually think that maybe there is something about you that's so terrible that they're going to believe whatever gets presented, right? A lot of them are like, "We're going to hear Teresa out and blah, blah, blah." I get Margaret being upset. I did think it was a little petty for her to call each of them up. I'm glad Jen Fester was like, "You know what? I'm gonna be a good friend, like a real sister, and I'm gonna politely bow out of this meeting." I don't think it's done in good intentions. I don't think that it's a nice thing that I want to participate in because it's gonna be harmful to my friend. I'm out. Sorry, sharks. I'm out. The rest of the ladies show up. And so we get there and we have what's his name? Larry? Is that her attorney's name? James, not Larry, James. James is there with Teresa. Louis is not there, probably because he didn't want to put himself at any further. He didn't want to further incriminate himself because I believe they've just now settled the restraining order case. And Louis was making accusations about his ex. His ex was making accusations about him. And then I believe at the end of the day, they were both bound from speaking to each other or about each other, and it just all had to be done and dropped. And so Teresa and James reveal that, and Margaret makes a good point about how her attorney is on Madison Avenue and Teresa's attorney is by the meth clinic, which is what is a meth clinic? Like, you can't. What is a meth clinic? Is that where people detox from meth? I don't know. A billboard on a bench. Yeah. Yeah. But so they reveal that I guess it came out in court that Margaret had corresponded with Louis's ex. Now, we don't have details. They don't reveal screenshots of anything. They don't reveal actual evidence of what Margaret's correspondence was or necessarily the timing of that. Whether they know that information or not, they don't reveal that. What is a methadone clinic? Yeah, but what is a methadone clinic? They give you liquid meth to keep your body from shutting down from detoxing. Oh my God. Oh, no methadone to get off heroin. Okay. Interesting. Um, so Teresa reveals this. She's like, "You know what? Margaret was talking to Louis' ex, and Louis' ex is not allowed to talk about Louis. So what she did was she gave information to Margaret." And then everyone's like, "Okay." And she's like, "So she was putting this information out there." And everybody's like, "Okay." And then even the editors were shady and they did that "wah, wah, wah" sound effect when she revealed it because everybody's face was like, "What? Huh? I don't get it. What's the big reveal? You've already accused Margaret of doing this in the past with no evidence, and now you're accusing her of doing it again with no evidence. Interesting." Uncertain of how that, like, it was just weird, right? And then, Dolores is like, I don't get what the big bombshell is. And nobody seemed shocked by this information because, again, they'd already made these accusations in the past. But then the weird part was, I believe they said that Margaret was subpoenaed and supposed to appear. And then Margaret responded to the subpoena by saying she wasn't going to appear. Now, there's no additional context or details given about that, but it's possible that she was asked that it was, that they sent her a letter saying that she may possibly be called into court. And maybe her attorney said Margaret would not be appearing personally, but the attorney may appear on her behalf. That's a possibility too, that Margaret declined, like she wouldn't physically be the one to appear in court. I don't know. I agree with everybody in the live chat. It was very anticlimactic. It was dumb. It was a whole lot of nothing. Um, but I did love this very shady moment where we see Teresa and she has somebody sent her some flowers at her door, and she goes to open the door and they're funeral flowers. It's literally a funeral floral arrangement. And she's like, oh, who sent this? Looks like funeral flowers. And then she looks at the card and she reads the card and it says, with deepest sympathy, dear Teresa and James, sorry for the loss of your dignity. Love, 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 Marge. That was literally the best part of this episode. It was better than Louis' cringe video because it was just funny. Like, it was a cheeky, shady moment. She's sending funeral flowers. I saw people online were Laura says, "Can't you be arrested for not going, for ignoring it?" Well, you can send a letter saying that it's possible that you may be called in, where it's not a direct subpoena, I don't believe, but there is a possibility, like, we may need you to come into court, and you can send your lawyer on your behalf, or you can have a lawyer file a statement on your behalf without actually, like, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But I did love the flower arrangement. It was funny because Teresa's reading. She's like, "Who sent me flowers? What? Who sent me flowers?" And then she reads it and she's like, I don't want it. I don't want it. Take it back. Take that off my property." And then the poor old man's like dragging it off her property. I just thought it was funny. I thought it was, oh my God, that's an amazing smart ass letter. Yeah, it was funny. I thought that it was funny. Um, the reveal was nothing. It was like this big, moment that Teresa's been building up for a long time to finally reveal absolutely nothing interesting. And then we see in a clip from next week's episode where Dolores sits down with Margaret and she's like, Margaret, why were you talking to Louis' ex? And she's just like, I didn't talk to her. She's like, when Teresa was accusing me of talking to the exes, I wasn't talking to the exes. She's like, eventually I did end up DMing with the exes. And then Margaret does say something that's a little strange because Margaret's like, I've never met this woman in person, but I have seen her out at events. So it's possible like maybe this woman goes out socially and she like saw Margaret around, and I don't know. But I don't think Margaret ever like had a formal like, let's sit down and have lunch. Let's sit down and have coffee, in comparison to Laura. Remember Margaret's ex-friend Laura that Jennifer and Teresa were meeting with and having conversations with, and I think didn't she even FaceTime them at one point on the show last season? So they were like in heavy communication with Laura to get information about Margaret, but then Teresa's over here being like, it's terrible that she's talking to Louis' ex. And they're not allowed to say Louis' ex. The floral arrangement was the bombshell. I just thought it was funny. It was a cute, cheeky, shady housewives moment. I saw some people on Twitter were like, oh my God, Margaret is so terrible. Remember, she brought the same floral arrangement to Teresa when her mother passed away. And I was like, and they're like, and look at her now. She's doing the same thing to taunt Teresa about her dead mother. And I'm just like, yo, when somebody passes away, you typically send a funeral arrangement, right? And then in this cheeky nod, she's saying, sorry for the loss of your dignity. So you send a funeral arrangement. Usually you send a funeral arrangement when there's a passing of something, when there's a loss, when there's grieving, when there's mourning, when something or someone has been put to rest. And in this case, it was James and Teresa's dignity. So I was just like, come on. Like, that's a bit of a stretch to say Margaret was teasing Teresa about her mother's passing by sending her funeral flowers. Like, come on. That's silly. Marge had nothing to do with Louis' case that was all his doing. Yeah, Margaret had nothing to do with Louis's case. That was his ex. Margaret wasn't setting the ex against Louis. The ex was clearly talking to other people because all of this stuff was coming out into the blogs, which is how Margaret, I presume, found out about this before she ended up um, talking to um, Louis's ex. So yeah. Susie J says, I absolutely think Louis is highly manipulative and calculated. He has that crazy look and does the most off the wall things that are cringe. I hated that forced scene with the men. It was a little cringe. It was a lot cringe, actually. Joe says, Zach, who would you prefer interviewing for Disaster Daters? Teresa, Vicky, or Alexia? I don't think Teresa would be very honest about her relationship on Disaster Dater, so I'm gonna say swipe left. Alexia's going through her separation from Todd, so maybe she may be willing to spill some tea. But Vicky, I think, would be the most interesting. She's had the wildest, chaotic dating history that she might be actually kind of fun. I did invite Vicky on No Filter one time, and I emailed her and she responded. She's like, that's all the way in LA. I live in Orange County. I'm working. I have a job. I have a business. It's a waste of my time to come all the way down to LA for a podcast. And that was it. And I was like, okay, thanks. Um, so yeah. Yeah. How is this related to her mother's death? Good point. I don't know. Sonia and Luann would be funny for Disaster Daters. I would love to have Luann on Disaster Daters. Jeff would love to have Luann on Disaster Daters too. Not Sonia. Sonia's a little too cuckoo, crazy, chaotic. So I'm going to veto the Sonia idea. The note didn't say PS and your mother's. Yeah, that would have been interesting. That would have been a real twist. But like you send funeral flowers when somebody passes. And this was like a sorry for the loss of your dignity. Love, 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 March. I just thought Teresa was just like, oh, somebody sent me flowers. And then she was like confused because they were funeral flowers. And then she's like, oh, take it back. Take it back. It was funny. And then the poor old man took them back. He didn't know what to do with it. Listen, that was worth the money that Marge spent on it, you know? Okay. Any other closing thoughts, feelings, vibes? Are you excited for the new dating show with Sonia, or not Sonia, with Lou, Shannon, Ashley, and Gizelle? Are you looking forward to a Jersey reboot? Are you, going to cancel Ariana and Katie over their $21 an hour part-time wage? Teresa actually has zero sense of humor. No, remember she said that Caroline Manzo was 1/16 Italian. Ha ha, laugh, funny. Most things go right over her head. True, but that's just because her hair is so high. It's like a slope. It just whoop, right over. Closing thoughts and questions. Whose friend's ex were you referring to earlier in the podcast? Oh, no, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna talk about that. Just one of my friend's exes I saw was now dating somebody, and I was like, oh no. I need something from Bravo. It has to be it has been slim pickings. I agree. You want to do a rewatch? You want to add something new? I've been listening to Disaster Daters. Jeff is easy on the eyes. Jeff is easy on the eyes. Get ready because the next episode of Disaster Daters is something else. It's a very real, raw episode of Disaster Daters. I will tell you that. It's very raw, and I don't listen. Some of y'all had got in the middle of things, and it just is quite. Whew, it's quite the watch. Let's do a Charmed rewatch. Ooh, that would be kind of fun to do a rewatch of Charmed. Maybe we do like a maybe members only. Maybe new Disaster Daters is tomorrow, right? I don't know if the episode will be ready for tomorrow. Because you're just wait. It's a very dramatic episode. I'll just tell you that. Of Disaster Daters. So get ready. We're not diving into our dating life, but we're diving into our friendship. So yeah, there's a new episode coming. I don't know if it's going to be ready by Tuesday. Our editor is working on it, but we'll see. Okay, I'm officially joining members only, getting too much FOMO. I loved Charmed. Yeah, I love Charmed too, and I've been rewatching Charmed anyway. So we'll see. Ooh, look at Meg's Megs Trav has been a member for 10 months. Said, loving my Zach. Thank you, Megs. People don't know about snitches and stitches. Clearly not, Laura. People don't know about snitches and stitches, and they end up in ditches. I hope that flower arrangement secures Margaret's place in the reboot. She deserves it and has earned it. I hope that this isn't Margaret's final season, only because I feel like this was a bad season to go out on. But I mean, listen, it is what it is, right? Cassie says, I'm a member on YouTube and Apple just in case I miss a live. Oh, well, would you look at that? Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in to an all new episode of No Filter with Zack Peter. That is me. You can give me a follow all over the internet at Just Plain Zack. You can follow the podcast at No Filter with Zack on Instagram. You can keep up with the Pop Report. We have new episodes of the Pop Report every Wednesday and Friday. We do have 2 guests this week, so get ready for that. Some fun new energy coming to the Pop Report, and Disaster Daters every Tuesday. I think this week's episode may be a bit late, or we may just skip a week. TBD. But stay tuned. It's gonna be a wild one. All right, guys. I love you. I appreciate you. No, thank you, Zach. I cannot believe you just said my name. One day I'll see you in person. Come to Minneapolis. Well, next year is going to be 10 years of No Filter, so I'm definitely planning on doing a big 10-year tour. A big 10-year tour. Get ready for it. 2025. Let's get it. How much longer do you think Teresa will be blinded by Louis' fakeness and love bombing? Well, if she gets off television, maybe forever. I actually think Teresa's stress is related to what could possibly come out about Louis rather than it was Louis getting, the restraining order on the ex. I don't know. That's my own speculation. All right, guys. Ciao for now. I love you. I appreciate you. Talk to you tomorrow. See you soon. Ciao for now. Goodbye. Bye, 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 bye.